Hi, Alex. Thank you for meeting with me today. Would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Alex Andreessen. I am currently a working professional. I do public relations for a nonprofit, and on the side, I have played the flute and piccolo since fourth grade. And before COVID-19 hit, I was in a community orchestra in New York City.
Oh, very cool. Now, kind of getting into your music background, when did you start? How did you start? Where did your love for music stem?
So I started in fourth grade in school, in the school system that I was in. I went to public school, and everyone at that time chose either an instrument or chorus or orchestra. Yeah, it was chorus, orchestra, or band. And I chose band, knew that I wanted to play the flute immediately. I'm not really sure why, because I don't remember this, but my mom told me that I just was like, I'm playing the flute, and that was that. And I took lessons in school, continued on with it through middle school, and I started working with a private instructor outside of school as well at some point. I think maybe like eighth grade or ninth
Mhm.
grade, through high school. And I did marching band, which was extracurricular. I did band in school. I remember doing an orchestra through school at one point, and then I also was in the orchestra at my church, which gave me a lot of opportunities to play at different, like both at church, but also instructor was also a composer. So I performed in like symphonies for him, which was really great. And then I continued on to college and I did it. Not there was no music major where I went to school, so it was
Mhm.
purely everyone just did it for fun, and we were like a scramble band. We played at football and basketball games. I also played in the orchestra at church, and just loved doing it and making friends through it, and doing it because I loved it.
Would you have been a music major if your school offered that?
No.
No?
Yeah. I I never like really wanted to study it super intensely, like as a major. I remember high school offered like a music theory course that I decided not to take. I just always like I loved playing. Even now, like I really don't like practicing on my own. I play. I love playing in an orchestra or a band,
Mhm.
like with a group. Like making music together and also meeting people through it, and doing it because I love it. Not to say that people who study it don't love it; they obviously do. But it just wasn't like the career path that I wanted to take,
Yeah.
in the path in schooling and college that I wanted to take.
Yeah, 100%. So when you had your instructor and you went out of your way in eighth grade, I think you said, how did you get that instructor? Was it through the school? Did your mom reach out to someone for you?
Oh my gosh, I don't
Just if
remember.
you don't even know, it's fine.
Well, I don't remember exactly when it was. Like I would guess around like yeah eighth grade, maybe seventh, maybe ninth.
Mhm.
I know she went to our church, and I'm not sure if like we were connected with her because of church or because I think because I played with her in the church orchestra, and she studied music, like was and is a professional in the field, and so I think it was just through connections or maybe the church orchestra, but and she was amazing. I think I took like a private lesson with her after school one day a week for a couple of
Mhm.
years.
And for your instruments, when you were in high school, did you rent through the school or did you end up buying one?
In high school specifically,
Yeah, how
or
about
anytime?
how about
Sure.
any time?
So
Let's go through all the times. Why not?
sure. So in high school, I owned my instrument. I was lucky enough that my parents purchased it for me. They bought me a flute and a piccolo. I picked up piccolo in I think sixth grade, and then my parents purchased. I know that they purchased a flute for me in probably when I like fifth or sixth grade. And then they purchased an intermediate level flute and piccolo for me when I was going into high school.
Cool. And so fast forwarding just a little bit from high school into your college years, you did a senior thesis. What was your thesis about? Could you tell me a little bit about it, the experience, what you learned, the overarching theme maybe that you found?
Sure. And I can actually share it with you. It's actually online on ERIC, which is like a
Yeah,
education
I've used
database
that
of
database.
research.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I can send you the link.
Cool.
But so I was a sociology major in college,
Mhm.
and I was just really always interested in the study of like society and why things are the way they are. And I'm really like social impact focused. And, I work for a nonprofit now, and I just always wanted to kind of blend like my education and my career with doing good for the world. And I was in the honors program I went to Villanova University, and they give you the option when you're an honors student of doing an honors senior thesis, which is it was definitely pretty daunting. I actually went into the honors program like as a freshman, thinking like, oh, I could never do that. It's like such a huge project. But fast forward to senior year, and I had just come off like an amazing and academically challenging study abroad experience, and I was like, okay, I actually do want to do this. And it was like my major had a thesis, but this was like an even more in-depth thesis. My final thesis wound up being like 70 pages, so it was a
Wow.
pretty big undertaking. And the hardest part was actually thinking of an idea. And I was
Hmm.
thinking like, okay, so I know I'm really interested in sociology, like all these different social issues, but what am I going to choose? Like, how am I going to figure out like what specifically, because you have to hone in on something so specific. And I was trying to figure out, like, I didn't really know where to go. And I started thinking, well, what do I enjoy and love doing outside of like what I'm studying? And obviously the first thing that came to mind was music. And then I started thinking about how I'm so passionate about music and also so passionate about education, and like how it's had music and education have had such a big impact on my life. So I wound up doing both a literature review and original research on the impact of after school music programs for low income or disadvantaged students. So I basically, it was qualitative. So I interviewed, like similar to what you're doing, I
Hmm.
interviewed a bunch of students in after school music programs in the Philly area, and synthesized the research and ripped through the whole report, and kind of tied it all together. I think I just remember, I'd have to go back and read to like go see what my main points were, but I remember the thing that struck me most, and that was kind of like my overall like conclusion, is that I think like over half the kids that I surveyed said that they did those. They just like the thing that they loved about the program the most was just playing music, and like the love of music for itself. Like, yes, it has all these other benefits, academically, socially, emotionally, like all these different benefits that are absolutely true and important, but like they just also just loved doing it for the sake of playing music. And I thought it was not something I expected. And I thought it was like really profound and just shows the importance of these kind of programs.
Yeah, 100%. So that actually makes me feel really good because one of our solutions is possibly creating an after school program for kids like who want to get into instruments and stuff like that. So that is one of our ideas. I'll get a little bit more into that. But before I do you remember any of the names of the schools that you interviewed the kids at?
I know I
The
remember
programs?
one off the top of my head, but I think I like kept them confidential in the report, so I don't know if
Oh,
I'm allowed
okay.
to share
Okay.
it. But I'm pretty familiar with at least some of like the larger like music program, like after school music programs
Right.
in at least like New York and Philly. So I'm happy to send you like some recommendations of
Yeah, if you
names.
could do that, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So kind of this was my next point, just needing almost this is in sense the whole premise of the interviewing, needing validation from you. That the problem of children needing instruments is a big enough problem. So that personally is me and my team's problem. We found that with COVID and everything, since schools aren't really around and they're remote right now, students aren't having the option to get those rentals from the schools. So we were thinking of a bunch of different solutions, and one of the solutions that we came to was an after school program that surrounds itself fully around music and the learning and the educational values of it, and just having different instruments there and having kids be together playing that music, and kind of just like also the factor of getting the kids away from the parents like after school so that they have more time to work, and like it working benefiting both parties. So basically what I'm just asking you is, would you personally, as someone who like is in the music industry be like interested in that program?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think anything to give kids a space to learn from someone who really knows about how to teach music and like get
Mhm.
fostering that community and that like just giving them those opportunities, I think is so important. And to your point, like I'm sure even now it's been even more hard to get instruments in the hands of students, and instruments are really expensive, and
Right.
students with means have a lot easier time just purchasing one, having their parents purchase one, whatever it is. But finding a way to make that happen, I think, is super important.
Yeah. So that was our one idea for the after school program. And then another one of our ideas was doing kind of like an online subscription almost. So that month, particularly, you want to learn the flute, then you get the flute. You get to learn the flute. If you want to drop the flute, you can send it back, learn something new. If you want to keep the flute, you keep the flute, kind of just like an online subscription, like you would for like Netflix or whatever, but instead just for instruments. Again, the same question, would you think you'd be interested in that?
Yes. And I think if your problem is like at the source, like getting instruments into the hands of kids, I think
Mhm.
especially right now in this time, most kids or families aren't able to do in-person stuff. Or I mean, at least, I mean, I'm in like the New York City area, so like so much is shut down right now. So just thinking about all the logistical challenges, I think like a ship to your door model is like a great idea. And making it really easy for parents. Also, I work at a nonprofit that's the Girl Scouts, so it's serving girls. So I'm like very in tune with like what parents need right now and like all these different things. And I think making it super easy, maybe put some sheet music in there with it, or like a
Yeah, that's
video
what we were thinking.
tutorial, stuff like that.
Yeah, video tutorials of just like so that you can pause, go back. Because we were also thinking of like offering online instruction through like Zoom possibly. But I've
Hmm.
talked to a bunch of like I talked to a music professor just last week and she was like, I've tried that, it doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. So we were thinking more of like a just send a video, just make a video, period, send a video where they can click stop, like go back, read it, whatnot. And then also
Totally.
sheet music, of course. But those were our two main ideas. I'm glad that you like them both. I'm glad that you helped me validate my problem, and it was great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking with you too. Good luck. And I will send you the link that I mentioned to my senior thesis in case it's helpful. Obviously, I was in 2013, so the research
No,
is
it
like a
will
little bit
totally be
older.
helpful.
But also one thing I thought of is there's this organization that I'm obsessed with that, and this was all before COVID. I think they're probably paused right now, but it was basically it was like a nonprofit founded by someone at Temple that was you would donate to refurbish a broken instrument that for the Philly Public School District. I read about it in a New York Times article, and I like you basically like sponsored an instrument that they would then they were all like broken, whatever needed to be fixed, but they like didn't have the money to pay someone to do it because it's Philly public school system and limited resources and whatnot. So they did this whole donation program where you would like sponsor an instrument for a kid who needed it, and they would put it back into the school once it was fixed. And I just thought it was like really genius and smart and necessary. So I'm gonna send you the link because I think it's an awesome
Yes, please.
organization.
That does sound awesome. Thank you so much for all the information you did give me and are going to give me.
You're very welcome.